Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for Dulwich and West Norwood for securing this important debate today. The findings of the National Audit Office on the compensation scheme for the Windrush scandal can only be described as catastrophic, and we've heard from many honourable members across the chamber today that more than 21 members of the Windrush generation have died awaiting compensation, and far too little support has been provided to those making claims. These claims need to be processed quicker to ensure no one else from the Windrush generation sadly passes away while still waiting. We also heard from the honourable and learned member from Edinburgh South West talking about the scheme needing to be properly resourced, and I agree with that. If one is to judge the UK Government's commitment to mending the harm they have caused to black citizens of the UK and Commonwealth by the efficacy of this compensation scheme, one may come to rather distressing conclusions. I would also like to highlight that many members of the Windrush generation continue to suffer from another of the Government's ill-judged and callous policies: frozen pensions. Successive UK governments have pursued an approach to state pensions where recipients in some countries receive annual pension payment increments, but pensioners in other countries, including all but 2 Caribbean countries, do not. Some members of the Windrush generation retired to their countries of birth only to find themselves at the receiving end of this harsh policy. This includes over 300 pensioners living in Antigua and Barbuda, 1,300 in Trinidad and Tobago, almost 1,000 in Grenada, and more than 800 in St Lucia, and hundreds more across a number of other Caribbean islands. One such pensioner is 90-year-old Nancy Hunt, who moved to the UK from Antigua with her daughter, 66-year-old Gretel. Nancy spent 33 years working in Leicester, while Gretel spent 2 decades working in UK factories. Due to their return to their country of origin, Nancy has now missed out on £70,000 in pension payments, receiving only £39 per week, less than a third of the pension she deserves. Gretel, who has now reached retirement age, faces the same fate as her mother. Another pensioner in this situation, who I had the great pleasure of meeting a couple of days ago virtually, is 82-year-old Monica Phillip, who was born in Antigua and moved to the UK when she was 20 years old. She spent 37 years employed in the UK, including as a civil servant at the Ministry of Defence and the City of London Social Services, and had to return to Antigua in 1996 to care for her ailing mother. Her state pension has been frozen at £74 per week, half of what her sister Naomi, who still lives in Leicester, receives. How can that be fair? The UK Government could choose to end this injustice at any time. All that it would take to put a stop to the frozen pensions policy is domestic legislation, unilaterally uprating the pensions of UK pensioners in countries that the UK has no reciprocal pension agreement with. The Government does not take these steps, as it insists it will only uprate pensions through such reciprocal agreements. This would be an almost reasonable position, if not for the fact that the Government balks at the opportunity when offered new reciprocal agreements, such as the one recently offered by Canada. It would be helpful if the Government could clarify why it takes such a contradictory stance, where on the one hand it insists that it merely seeks bilateral reciprocal deals, and on the other it will not actively seek such deals or seriously consider them when they are presented with the opportunity to secure one. Now, I understand the Minister may not have responsibility for this, but has the Minister had discussions with colleagues in the DWP on the impact these frozen pensions have had on Windrush pensioners who have retired to their countries of origin, especially in light of the inefficacy of the compensation scheme? Nothing can excuse this lack of support to Windrush pensioners who put in decades of hard work rebuilding the UK after the Second World War.